What if I told you that some of the worst scandals in reggae music changed the reggae music history? From the shocking death of Peter Tosh in his own home, to the Kenyan government banning reggae from airwaves after a failed military coup. Here are the 10 worst scandals that changed reggae music history. Attempted assassination of Bob Marley, 1976. On the night of December 3, 1976, just 2 days before the Big Smile Jamaica concert, Bob Marley's home at 56 Hope Road was turned into a war zone. At around 8:30 p.m., 7 armed men stormed the house where Marley and his band were taking a break from rehearsal. Chaos broke out. His wife, Rita Marley, was sitting in her car in the driveway when she was shot in the head. Bob himself was shot in the chest and arm. His manager, Don Taylor, was hit several times, in the legs and torso. Another man, Louis Griffiths, who worked with the band, also took a bullet to his body. The house was sprayed with bullets, but miraculously no one died. Many people have tried to figure out who was behind the attack. One biographer, Timothy White, wrote that he had spoken with people in both of Jamaica's main political parties, the JLP and PNP, as well as U.S. law enforcement. He believed that a known gunman named Carl Mitchell, who was connected to the JLP, was hired by the CIA to carry out the shooting. He also said that another feared man, Lester Koch, led the attack on Marley's house. Don Taylor later said that both he and Marley saw the men who shot them appear in court, and that the gunmen were executed. One of them allegedly claimed he was promised some illegal substance and weapons in exchange for the job from the CIA. The American embassy sent a message back to Washington with the title, "Reggae Star Shot, Motive Probably Political." In it, Ambassador Gerard said some people believed the JLP had tried to stop the concert, which featured Marley and other progressive reggae artists. Others thought it was a trick to turn Marley into a political martyr for the PNP. But no matter which theory you believed, the fact remained. Bob Marley had been shot, but he was still alive. Despite his injuries, Marley didn't back down. He stepped on stage at the Smile Jamaica concert just as planned. He was bandaged in pain, but full of spirit. He couldn't play his guitar, but he still performed. That moment made headlines all over the world. People everywhere saw him as more than just a singer. He was now a symbol of resistance, someone who proved that music could stand up to violence. This made Marley more known worldwide and brought more fans to reggae. After the shooting, Marley and his family left Jamaica and went to live in England for a while. When he returned to Jamaica, he performed at the famous One Love Peace concert and did something unforgettable. He called the two political enemies, Michael Manley and Edward Seaga, on stage and held their hands high, urging the country to unite. Shabba Ranks' homophobic remarks, 1992. Shabba Ranks was once one of the biggest stars in dancehall music. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, he became famous not for singing, but for his unique style of talking over beats known in Jamaica as toasting. His rise to fame began alongside other reggae artists like Cocoa Tea and Crystal. Soon, he started working with big international stars too, including rock legend Chuck Berry and American rappers like KRS-One and Chubb Rock. Shabba's biggest hit was the catchy reggae-inspired track Mr. Loverman, which still gets played at weddings and parties to this day. In 1992, he won his first Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album with As Raw As Ever, and in 1993, he won again for Extra Naked. But Shabba's success came with controversy. He became known for making homophobic comments, including lyrics in songs like Wicked in a Bed, where he talked about violence against gay men. Things got even worse in 1992 when he appeared on the UK music show The Word. While holding a Bible, Shabba said that the Word of God supports killing homosexuals. His comments shocked the audience and even the show's host, Mark Lamar, who quickly responded, "That's absolute crap and you know it." Even though Shabba later apologized, the damage was done. Many people stopped supporting him, and his career never fully recovered. In Jamaica, some fans felt disappointed that he apologized, while others in the international scene wanted nothing more to do with him. Up until then, Shabba was the face of international dancehall, having won a Grammy and broken into the US market. His comment, however, cast a shadow over the genre, leading critics and LGBTQ+ activists to label reggae and dancehall as dangerously homophobic. After this incident, international media and human rights groups began closely examining lyrics by Jamaican artists for homophobic content. Songs that had circulated freely in Jamaica suddenly became controversial exports, leading to concert cancellations and bans across Europe and North America. BBC's withdrawal of homophobic reggae tracks, 2002. In 2002, the BBC found itself in hot water after gay rights activists criticized it for promoting reggae songs with violent, homophobic lyrics. The trouble started when the BBC's website featured Log On, a track by Jamaican artist Elephant Man, on a page about its TV series The History of Reggae. The lyrics in that song talked about stomping on and setting fire to a gay man. Another BBC webpage listed a top 10 song list by Radio 1 DJ Chris Goldfinger. His list included Bundy Chi Chi, which translates to Burn the Queer, as well as 3 other tracks by Elephant Man. In Log On, the lyrics say things like, "Log on and step pon Chi Chi man, burn out a freaky man, crush out dem." Activist groups like Outrage were furious. They said these songs clearly promoted hate and violence against gay people and couldn't believe that a public broadcaster like the BBC would allow such content on its platforms. Peter Tatchell from Outrage said he was glad the BBC admitted its mistake and hoped other stations would stop promoting such hateful music too. J-Flag, a gay rights group based in Jamaica, also spoke out. They said there were many songs like this being played in dance halls that encourage hatred against LGBTQ people. They explained that these songs don't just stay in the music scene, they help create a dangerous culture where violence against gay and lesbian people is ignored or even accepted. Some artists tried to defend themselves. Capleton, one of the artists often accused of using violent lyrics, said, "Fire was just a metaphor for spiritual cleansing," but J-Flag wasn't buying it. They said it was clear what the lyrics meant and that most people listening wouldn't think it was symbolic, they'd take it literally. The backlash forced the BBC to act fast. Both the History of Reggae webpage and Chris Goldfinger's song list were edited to remove the offending tracks. The BBC said Bundy Chi Chi had never been played on the radio and called its appearance on the website a mistake. As for Log On, they said only a censored version had been played on the digital station, One Extra, with the violent lyrics removed. They also thanked the Guardian newspaper for pointing out the issue. Still, the controversy didn't end there. More pressure followed, and soon activists began targeting other reggae artists with similar lyrics. Ottawa Reggae Festival financial scandal, 2010. The Ottawa Reggae Festival started with big dreams and good vibes. From 2008 to 2010, it was held every summer at Le Breton Flats Park in Ottawa, Canada. Run mostly by volunteers, the festival quickly grew into a major event for reggae lovers across the country. The very first festival in 2008 was just a one-day celebration, but it was such a hit that organizers added a second day called the Heineken Dance Party. This part of the festival focused on local DJs and reggae artists from the region. That first year featured well-known performers like Canada's own Jamalian and El Negro, UK reggae star Maxi Priest, Bermudian artist Collie Buddz, and Toronto's Snow. By its third year in 2010, things started to fall apart. Behind the scenes, the festival's president, Benjamin Williams, was dealing with serious financial problems. People began to notice issues. Some artists didn't show up, some shows were suddenly canceled, and rumors of mismanagement started spreading. On August 21st, 2010, things took a dramatic turn. A court had ruled in favor of A. Raoul Nembhard, the festival's former financial officer. He claimed he had spent his own money on the previous year's event and was never paid back. That day, authorities seized cash and receipts from the beer tent at the festival. The next day, August 22nd, everything collapsed. All performances were canceled. Even the biggest stars, Sean Paul and Kai-Mini Marley, pulled out. Vendors and musicians began to panic, worried they wouldn't be paid. Sean Paul's team explained that they never received the $50,000 deposit they were promised, so they lost trust in the event. Sean Paul even went on Twitter to say sorry to his fans and blame the promoters for the mess. As more information came out, it was clear that President Benjamin Williams had made some very risky choices. He booked big-name artists without having the money to pay them. He promised more than he could deliver and didn't manage the sponsors or ticket sales well. L3. Magazine, one of the festival's sponsors, blamed Williams directly. Even the festival's own board criticized him, saying he was too young and inexperienced to handle such a big event. News of the collapse didn't just stay in Ottawa. It spread fast across Canada and even reached Jamaica. The scandal became a major story, and it hurt the reggae scene worldwide. Promoters in places like the US, UK, and Caribbean began to be more cautious. Artists started demanding payment up front and stricter contracts before agreeing to perform at international shows. The Ottawa Reggae Festival had once been a cultural bridge between Jamaica and Canada's Caribbean community. But after the scandal, city officials and sponsors became skeptical about supporting reggae events. Many similar festivals in Canada struggled to get funding afterward. Dancehall artists fined at Reggae Sumfest. Reggae Sumfest is the biggest music festival in Jamaica and all of the Caribbean. Every year in July, people from all over the world travel to Montego Bay to celebrate reggae and dancehall music. Since it began in 1993, the festival has become a massive event, with a week of parties and shows leading up to the main performances. It's a time when Jamaica's music, culture, and energy are on full display. But even with all the excitement, one rule has shaped the history of Reggae Sumfest in a surprising way: a rule about swearing on stage. During the 30th edition of the festival, a young dancehall artist named Beka was performing for the first time at Sumfest. He had just started gaining popularity and was seen as one of dancehall's rising stars. But on the very first night of the show, things took a shocking turn. His performance was suddenly stopped. Then, to everyone's surprise, Beka was arrested and briefly taken into custody. The reason was because he used curse words on stage. This wasn't a random decision. In Jamaica, there's a law called Section 9C of the Towns and Communities Act. It says that anyone who uses indecent or obscene language in public, like swearing or singing offensive songs, is committing a crime. Beka broke that rule and the police enforced it, right there in front of the festival crowd. Although Beka's arrest made headlines, he wasn't the first artist to get into trouble for cursing at Sumfest. In fact, this issue has been a problem for years. Over the festival's 30-year history, many famous performers have been fined for doing the same thing. In 2001, big names like Snoop Dogg, Ja Rule, and Beanie Man were all charged for swearing on stage. In 2003, even Sean Paul was served court papers after his performance. In 2008, Bounty Killer was charged. In 2009, both Vybz Kartel and Mavado were penalized. And in 2011, American rapper Nicki Minaj had to pay a $1,000 fine for using bad language during her set. The situation became so serious that, in 2001, the Montego Bay Parish Council actually considered banning Dancehall Night altogether. They said the performances were encouraging wild dancing by children, promoting illegal substance use, and featuring artists with inappropriate behavior. That year, 8 artists were fined, and people across Jamaica, along with festival sponsors, started publicly criticizing Sumfest. To fix things, the festival organizers tried a new approach. In 2002, they came up with a rule: performers would only get half of their payment before the show. The rest would only be given after the performance if they followed the rules. That year, for the first time in Sumfest history, not a single artist cursed on stage, but the issue didn't disappear. By 2005, several Jamaican businesses spoke out, saying they were tired of artists using bad language and disrespecting the stage. One of the festival's directors, Walt Crooks, gave a strong message in a newspaper article. He said that artists needed to understand that holding a microphone doesn't give them power, it gives them responsibility. He also praised the companies that stood up and demanded change. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Peter Tosh, Legalize, It Ban, 1976. When Peter Tosh released Legalize It in 1976, he wasn't just sharing a new song, he was making a bold statement that shook Jamaica and the world. Peter Tosh, once a member of the legendary reggae group, the Wailers, with Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer, had just stepped out on his own. Legalize It was his first solo album, and the title track carried a message that couldn't be ignored. Tosh used the song to speak out against the way he and other Rastafarians were being treated. He was tired of being arrested and harassed by the police simply because he followed the Rastafarian faith and smoked, which was part of his religion and lifestyle. The song came right out and said what many people were afraid to say, that smoking should be legalized. One powerful line from the song said, "Doctors smoke it, nurses smoke it, judges smoke it," calling out the double standards in Jamaican society. Tosh was pointing a finger at the people in power, saying that even those who made or enforced the laws were using these illegal substances themselves. Because of this, the Jamaican government and media didn't take it lightly. The song was quickly banned from Jamaican radio. They saw it as dangerous and rebellious, a direct challenge to the country's laws and its political leaders. But the ban didn't stop Tosh. In fact, it made his message louder. He kept performing the song live, speaking about it in interviews, and refusing to stay quiet. The more the authorities tried to silence him, the more powerful the song became. People around the world began to take notice. In places like the United States and Europe, where the activism was gaining momentum, Legalize It became an anthem. Even though Jamaican radio wouldn't play it, the song got airplay overseas and connected with people far beyond the island. His song helped reggae music grow from something people danced to into a movement with a message. Reggae became a tool to speak out against injustice, unfair laws, and colonial systems that still affected everyday life in Jamaica and other countries. Thanks to Tosh's courage, other artists were inspired to do the same. Over the years, singers like Buju Banton, Sizzla, and Chronix followed his lead. They used their music to talk about serious issues like poverty, violence, and oppression, things that many people faced but were afraid to confront. Dancehall's homophobia leading to international bans. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, dancehall music was booming. Artists like Beenie Man, Buju Banton, Sizzla, and Elephant Man were filling concert halls all over the world. Their music was full of energy, rhythm, and catchy hooks. But while fans were dancing, a storm was quietly building because some of the lyrics these artists were singing upset a lot of people. Many of the songs had words that were seen as hateful or violent toward LGBTQ+ people. As more people outside of Jamaica began to hear these lyrics, protests started. Some shows were canceled. Some artists were banned from countries. Governments got involved. Suddenly, dancehall had to face a serious problem it could no longer ignore. In 2004, Vybz Kartel was nominated for a UK MOBO award, but the nomination was taken back because some of his lyrics were considered homophobic. The year before, 2 of his shows in the UK were cancelled after a gay rights magazine called Outrage complained to the police. They said Kartel's lyrics could encourage violence against gay people. Beenie Man also got caught in the controversy. Protesters said some of his songs promoted violence against the gay community. In 2004, MTV removed him from the Video Music Awards lineup after LGBTQ+ groups protested. British police even stopped him at Heathrow Airport after one of his UK shows was cancelled. In 2005, Outrage said they would stop protesting him after he agreed to stop performing those kinds of songs. But the controversy didn't go away. Even years later, in 2010, Beenie Man's shows were still being cancelled in countries like New Zealand, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Mavado also faced trouble. One of his songs, Batty Boy Termination, caused a lot of anger. It included lines like, "Batty boy must die," "Lesbian must die," "Sodomite must die." These words were seen as dangerous, and people all over the world, especially LGBTQ+ groups and human rights activists, spoke out. Because of this, Mavado was banned from performing in several Caribbean countries at different times. Sizzla's lyrics also upset LGBTQ+ groups, especially in Europe and North America. In 2004, he was banned from entering the UK. Soon after, his concerts were cancelled in Canada, Germany, Spain, Sweden, Portugal, and Belgium. Capleton had similar problems. Some of his lyrics were also seen as anti-gay, which led to protests and show cancellations in places like Switzerland and the US. His manager later claimed that people had misunderstood or mistranslated the lyrics, but the damage was already done. In response to all this pressure, several artists like Beenie Man, Capleton, and Sizzla signed the Reggae Compassionate Act, promising not to perform songs with homophobic lyrics anymore, but not everyone stuck to that promise. Some later denied even signing it, which made things worse and kept the tensions going. As the controversy continued, things began to shift. Bans and protests made it hard for some artists to tour or get radio play. That opened the door for a new kind of dancehall. Artists like Sean Paul, Popcan, and Coffee brought a smoother, cleaner style. Their songs were fun, catchy, and didn't stir up the same kind of trouble. Record labels and music festivals also started checking lyrics more carefully. They didn't want to be part of anything seen as hateful. Even the harder, more traditional dancehall artists began changing their approach. Lady Saw's explicit lyrics and performances. Lady Saw is a Jamaican singer and songwriter. She was once called the Queen of Dancehall, and many people around the world know her for singing on the no doubt hit song Underneath It All. That song went triple platinum and even won a Grammy. Back in 1987, she chose the name Lady Saw to honor a famous Jamaican singer named Tenor Saw, who had a big influence on her. Her performances were bold and full of energy, which caught the attention of music producers. Soon she recorded her first single with a producer named Piper. Another early song, Love Me or Left Me, produced by Olive Shaw, got a lot of airplay on Jamaican radio. She became popular quickly, topping the charts with her first hits, If Him Left and Find a Good Man. Thanks to her success, she began working on her first album. In 1994, she released it under the title Lover Girl, and one of the standout tracks was Stab Up the Meat. 2 years later, she dropped her second album, Give Me the Reason, which made headlines because of how openly sexual some of the lyrics were. Songs like Life Without Dick and Name New, Stan Fee Sex didn't hold back. Her bold sexual style of music became known as slackness. In Jamaican culture, slackness refers to songs or behavior that are very raw or vulgar, especially when it comes to sex. Male artists had been doing it for years, but when Lady Saw did it as a woman, she got a lot of pushback. Some of her shows were even banned in parts of Jamaica. Interestingly, male performers who did the same kind of songs were rarely punished. She clapped back with songs like What is Slackness and Freedom of Speech, challenging the double standard. She wanted to show people that if men could express themselves that way, women should be able to as well. Because of her, artists like Spice and Tanya Stephens were able to follow in her footsteps. Today, those women and many others keep singing about female power and owning their voices, just like Lady Saw did. 1982 Reggae Ban in Kenya, 1982. In 1982, something unusual happened in Kenya. The government decided to ban reggae music from being played on state radio. This wasn't just about music, it was a serious move to silence a sound that they believed was spreading rebellious ideas. Reggae often talks about freedom, resistance, and standing up to injustice. The leaders feared these messages were encouraging young people to challenge authority. This ban didn't come out of nowhere. That same year, a group of rebel soldiers from the Kenya Air Force tried to take over the government. It became known as the 1982 coup attempt. One of the first things these soldiers did was seize control of the country's main radio station, Voice of Kenya, now called KBC. They kidnapped a popular journalist, Leonard Mambo Imbotella, and forced him to announce live on air that the rebels were now in charge. After that, something remarkable happened. The soldiers started playing reggae music, mostly songs by Bob Marley. Between songs, they aired announcements from student leaders who declared that university students were fully behind the coup. Some of those students were well-known future politicians like Boni Kalwale, Dr. Shem Ochuodho, David Murathe, and Titus Adungosi. But the coup didn't last. President Daniel Arap Moi had the backing of the army and other powerful forces, and they crushed the rebellion. Once Moi was back in control, the response was swift. Reggae wasn't just stopped for a while, it was completely banned from public spaces. The government didn't want anyone hearing those dangerous messages of rebellion ever again. Even Raila Odinga, now a well-known political leader and a proud reggae fan, was arrested during the crackdown. The government thought stopping the music would stop the movement, but it didn't work. Instead, reggae went underground. People copied tapes in secret and passed them around. In Nairobi's poorer neighborhoods, Pirate radio stations and local sound systems kept the music alive. If anything, the band made reggae even more powerful. It spoke to people who felt unheard, especially the poor and the youth. Over time, things changed. By the early 1990s, the government began to ease up. Reggae slowly returned to the radio. And today, it's everywhere in Kenya. People proudly blast reggae from minibuses, markets, and homes. The messages about Black pride, love, and freedom still hit home, especially for those who feel ignored by those in power. Even President Uhuru Kenyatta has called himself a reggae lover. The phrase, "nobody can stop reggae," is now a popular saying in Kenya. Peter Tosh's assassination, 1987. In 1976, Bob Marley survived an attempt on his life, but just a few years later, the reggae world was rocked by the murder of Peter Tosh. Tosh's death was shocking and violent, and it made both reggae fans and the world take a hard look at the increasing gun violence, political problems, and dangerous underworld that were starting to mix with the music scene. His murder exposed a side of reggae culture that hadn't been talked about much before, the dangers and violence that some artists had to face. Peter Tosh's career took off in the mid-1970s. In 1975 and 1976, he recorded his first solo album, Legalize It, at Treasure Isle Studios. It was released in June 1976 and quickly became popular, especially with people who supported the legalization of smoking, reggae fans, and Rastafarians. The title track, Legalize It, became an anthem for these substance supporters all over the world, and it was one of the most loved songs at his concerts. That same year, Tosh formed a band called Words, Sound, and Power, which toured with him and played on his albums for the next few years. Tosh's second album, Equal Rights, came out in 1977. It included the song Get Up, Stand Up, which he co-wrote with Bob Marley, and a cover of the song Stepping Razor, which was later used in the movie Rockers. But everything changed in 1987. On September 11th, Tosh returned home to Jamaica, where a three-man gang showed up at his house on motorcycles. They demanded money, but Tosh told them he didn't have any. The gang didn't believe him, so they stayed at his house for hours, torturing Tosh in an attempt to get him to give them money. As Tosh's friends arrived to visit him, the gang took them hostage too. One of the gunmen was Dennis Lobban, a man Tosh had once tried to help by finding him work after he got out of jail. Despite Tosh telling them he had no money, the gang started shooting. Tosh was shot twice in the head and killed. Two other people, Wilton Brown and disc jockey Jeff Dixon, also died from their injuries. Several others were wounded, including Tosh's common-law wife, Andrea Marlene Brown, Jeff Dixon's wife Yvonne, Tosh's drummer, Carlton Davis, and musician Michael Robinson. The news of Tosh's murder made headlines all over the world. It was a turning point for how reggae was viewed globally. Reggae had always been known for its messages of freedom and resistance. But after Tosh's death, it became linked with crime, violence, and the struggles that came with living in a politically unstable environment. Which of these scandals shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.